Look at Sitting Bull here. I call him Sitting Bull because I know his name, but if I didn't know his name, what would I call him and his people? I have a few options like Native American or Indigenous person, but the sitting elephant in the room is the quick and broad Indian label. Let's first figure out where it comes from and then try to understand how it's managed to remain so long with what seems to be very little public opposition. Welcome back, dear viewer. It is I, History Helms. Again, this time, the topic at hand is the term Indian. The question at hand is as follows. Should we, as Americans, living in what we deem to be a constantly evolving society, welcome to any type of person, dismiss the term Indian as an outdated, lazy term of antiquity, or maintain it for the sake of convenience and minimal opposition? That's kind of long, so we'll simplify it. Is it okay to keep calling Native Americans Indians since it's convenient, or should our language adjust as our society adjusts? Let's first look at how the term came around. You may already know this, but the term Indian comes from Christopher Columbus, the Italian voyager who completed 4 expeditions across the Atlantic Ocean, sponsored by the Spanish Crown. Columbus, upon landing on San Salvador in 1492, an island in the Bahamas, believed that he had landed somewhere in the East Indies, this area here. It's important to remember that most Europeans at the time, living in the Old World, believed the Earth to be much smaller than it actually is, and didn't even know there were 2 massive continents blocking the path from Europe to the East Indies. So when Columbus saw the people on San Salvador, he mistakenly called them Indios, which isn't too far from our familiar word, Indian. Now one would like to think, upon discovering the misconception, that Columbus would change his label and say, oh wait everyone, the people we met weren't actually Indians, and we landed in the Bahamas.
Oopsie.
But get this, he never corrected himself or anyone else. Very staunch of him, right? Well, wrong. Columbus died believing he had actually reached the Indies. This was not corrected soon after his death either, but instead other Europeans widely accepted the label of Indian to refer to the people of the Americas. It was instead another Italian explorer, Amerigo Vespucci, who would get the name America from, that reached the Americas in 1499, specifically South America, and realized that Columbus had actually reached a brand new continent, not the East Indies. This information spread throughout Europe, but by that time, the label of Indian was already well ingrained. So much so that the West Indies is still the name we use for this North American subregion, including countries like Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, and Guyana. So there were clear and obvious naming errors when it came to the people that these Europeans were stumbling upon. And one would like to think that as interactions became more regular, both hostile and friendly between them, that some type of correction would be made. But there were no corrections for a very, very long time. Even after Pocahontas, the French and Indian War, the Treaty of Hopewell, Indian Reserves, and Sacagawea, these people were still the Indians. It wasn't until the 1960s, a time known for a societal change when it comes to American history, that we find the most noteworthy effort to create distance between Indian and Native American. We say Native Americans to refer to the people that were in the Americas when European explorers landed there. But this idea of naming is so broad no matter what word you try to use, especially considering the circumstances. I'll elaborate. The people indigenous to the Americas were, just like we see today, incredibly diverse. Up until the late 15th century, they had over 600 unique tribes, 500 distinct languages, and even more dialects within those languages. They ate different food, they dressed differently, they went to war with and scalped each other, and had different marital beliefs and religious beliefs. Because Native Americans are so diverse, it's easy to understand why a single, quick term would be applied when talking about them. Not to say that it's correct, but instead to say that the alternatives are challenging. Individually, any name you have for Native Americans is problematic. Let's think about it. To refer to them simply as natives or indigenous people, although arguably denotatively correct, connotatively implies that the people in question originated in the Americas, which wouldn't be true. To name them Aboriginal sounds okay, but for many it refers to the people indigenous to Australia, and invokes memories of colonization, which involve interactions similar to American colonization like war, disease, slavery, and the like. To call them Native Americans, like I've been doing, also has its problems, as it leans the way of Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian explorer. Surely it would be inappropriate to name unique groups of people collectively after an Italian explorer from the Old World. Lastly, Indian is based entirely in error, but I think the reason this term still lingers is becoming more clear. So with our history and some discussion in mind, let's look again at the thesis question. Is it okay to keep calling Native Americans Indians since it's convenient, or should our language adjust as our society adjusts? This is one of those things where there just isn't a quick and fast answer, but instead more of an "it depends" type of response. In a practical way, you're much better off asking a personal group of people what they'll prefer to be called, as that specific recognition is seen as very valuable, as opposed to giving in to generalization, which is a lot more convenient. Let me explain how I got here. Many people indigenous to the Americas still call themselves Native Americans, while many others are entirely fine with the term Indian. So much so that they both identify themselves as Indians and even include the label when naming organizations, businesses, etc. A similar juxtaposition would involve some natives taking offense to the Cleveland Indians and its mascot, while others openly approve of the use of native imagery, like the Seminole tribe of Florida endorsing the Florida State Seminoles mascot. Something interesting about the latter interaction is the specific identification of the Seminole, which I think bolsters my previous statement that you're better off asking a person or group of people how they should be referred to. In my opinion, this specific recognition is why the FSU Seminole is honored, while the Washington Redskin, for example, was problematic. This specific language point sounds really nice, but there's still a glaring issue, as there were hundreds of distinct native tribes. The people indigenous to America, albeit descendants of a specific group, are not all the same, as the Cherokee and the Sioux are not of the same culture, for instance. Just like a black person from Georgia and a black person from New York may both come from a specific group of ancestors, they are not of the same culture. But in any case, for any group of people, there is still an urge for convenience when it comes to how we should refer to them, and practically every group you can think of has a publicly accepted name, except for Native Americans, which gives us this Indian issue. So truthfully, the question why do we still call them Indians is rhetorical and stems from a place of knowing that the original naming was entirely incorrect, while also understanding that alternatives like Native, Aboriginal, and Indigenous also come with their own individual problems. To answer directly in a non-rhetorical way, we still call them Indians because it's a quick and convenient way to refer to a large group of very diverse peoples, despite erroneous origin. Whether or not we should continue calling them Indians simply depends on who you're talking to or about. Now I understand this is difficult considering there's so many different tribes, but I think that only adds more to the complexity of the Indian issue. Either way, specific recognition is still valuable. Well, here we are again, dear viewer, me and you. Thank you so much for watching until the end of the YouTube video. I really do appreciate that. That helps me more than you'll ever know. Thank you. Odds are, if you watch this far into the video, you like the video. If you like the video, like the video. I know you gotta make an account for that. I know that's a mental barrier for you. Do me a favor, make an account. Actually, just do it because I said so. That's all. Make an account right now and like the video. That's it. Very simple. I know this one was a little bit more academic, historical discussion based, while other videos have been a lot more brain rot. I understand. Let me know in the comments. Do you like the brain rot better than this style? Let me know. You know, we can crack some more jokes. Oh yeah, I'll leave you with this quote from Russell Means, not because it answers really any questions for us, but instead helps us to understand the complexity of this Indian issue. Thanks again for watching. See you.